everyone. I'm going to tell you how almost a year ago we started an API evolution in our company. First of all, let me explain who we are and what we do. Kiwi.com is a flight ticket search engine and an online travel agency. You can search worldwide with parameters our backend guides a little bit hate, but our users love. For example, you want to travel from Split to anywhere and anytime. And it's not only about flights anymore, we also support buses and trains. So in this particular booking, you can see if you want to travel from Split to Slovenia, we give you a flight to Venice, and from Venice you continue with bus. And we sell it as one ticket. So if you miss a bus because the flight was delayed, we cover you, we buy you the next available bus or any other connection, give you hotel, whatever you need to give you to your destination. Few numbers, we are 6 years young. We already sold around 5 million of bookings. We handle 18 million search daily. Our turnover last year was around 700 million euros, and there is around 250 developers working on this project in cities Brno, Prague, Barcelona, Belgrade, and last but not least, this beautiful city, Split. So almost a year ago in Prague, we started a small project, and we were in a need to fetch some data, display, search a flight, display the most important things, which is like how much does it cost, when it departs, and who operates the flight. We went into a thing I called Wild West, because we have APIs that are REST, and there is documentation for it. So it looked in the beginning very simple. Call some REST API and fetch the data. So we digged into our documentation and realized that this is the request URL we have to call. And this is quite huge, but the response is even bigger. So this is the response for one particular flight. This is still the response, and this is the end of the response. And if you want to display which airline operates this flight, we have to call another API. So this is a little bit unfriendly for new developers who need to read all the documentation, realize it's pretty overfetching everything. So the issues with the Wild West are unclear and unfriendly environment. Documentation has to be written separately from code, so obviously it gets outdated. There is a huge overfetching of data because we were just asking for few properties, but we were receiving huge amount of data. And there is unclear way how to version the API once the backend realized there is something, there's better approach how to handle the responses and stuff like that. But we heard there is something better. There is something you can just specify the data you want in a much more readable way, and you receive only what you are asking for. So pretty immediately, we were in this phase. We fell in love with GraphQL and want to kick the REST API out of our site. But this is really not the efficient way how to develop stuff. You cannot always just throw away what you have. You have to think about the evolution way, how to incorporate something new into your dev stack. So why we fell in love with the GraphQL? It's pretty easy. The onboarding of new developers is very smooth. It's connected with developer experience. Front-end guys love to fetch data over GraphQL. ReactJS loves GraphQL because there is a connection between the props of React components and the props the GraphQL provides. And there is a lot of handy tools. So there came a question. How to start using GraphQL if front-end loves it, back-end users don't understand the front-end needs, but we need to don't stop everything and still deliver something. So we had some requirements. We want to keep our REST API because the backend guys know what they are doing with the logic, but we also didn't want to add more servers to handle the DevOps and stuff like that. So this was how it looked like, how probably every API can look like. There is some storage, some application servers that provides the REST API, and the clients communicates over REST API. We added just one single thing that made everything possible, and this was GraphQL proxy. We wrote GraphQL proxy in JavaScript because this is the language front-end guys know, and so they are maintaining the code, and they still are calling the REST API, so we don't need anything from backend guys. And we are deploying it on AWS Lambda, so we are running in serverless, and we don't have to handle the DevOps stuff that would be connected with all the standard server approach. As I said, there are a lot of tools around GraphQL. These tools make our life much more easier. So let me quickly run through some of these tools, which I highly recommend for you to use. First thing, graphical. It's like API console. You already seen it. The cool thing is that GraphQL provides introspection query. It simply gives you all the information it handles. So you can build tools around it. The introspection query contains all the types, all the entities that are there, and even the documentation. So if you are using graphical that is just built upon the data from this introspection query, you are receiving features like autocomplete. The documentation is always fresh because it's part of the code. And of course, you can try those queries and see the output. If you want to try it, please go to this URL and play with it. The data are real, so you can start using our GraphQL endpoint and build something similar we are doing if you want to. Another handy tool is GraphQL VOYAGER, which is, again, built on the schema, but it gives you overall picture about all the graph. So you quickly get idea about what data are provided, what are the connections, what are the queries. You can zoom into some details and see, again, the documentation, which is generated from code, so it cannot get old. Of course, you need to monitor your GraphQL proxy, so we are using Apollo Engine, which is performance monitoring with a handy dashboard overview, so you can see all the queries that are being called, how much time did it took to resolve all the properties. We can see the frequencies, times. We can dig into single query if there was any issue. We can see what parameters was it called with, and we can analyze the problem. So if we want to optimize something, we go into the Apollo Engine, see what takes too much time, and optimize if it's worth it. And again, there was no need to incorporate Apollo Engine because you just simply push data from the GraphQL proxy to Apollo Engine, and there is no task for backend guys to perform, which is always a good idea. The issue with Apollo Engine so far is it's a closed source. There is unclear what's happening with the data that are sent. So we are probably about to implement some open source solution to this. So stay tuned. There will be some cool stuff happening, hopefully. Another cool feature GraphQL brings are GraphQL subscriptions. That's a way how you fetch live updates from server. It's built on a WebSocket, but it has all the benefits of GraphQL syntax. So we are specifying on which event, what data you want to receive, and everything is handled by GraphQL. We are using AWS AppSync for this because we don't want to handle our own servers that would be handling those WebSocket connections that can be tricky if you can receive some huge load. So we deploy to AWS AppSync for these GraphQL subscriptions, and we are not afraid of the growth because we are delegating all the DevOps to this managed GraphQL backend service. Some quick recommendations about what we use in our JavaScript code. We are using flow types, so we have statically typed JavaScript. We are using Relay Modern as a GraphQL framework, so we can automatically fetch data, use fragments, very useful thing when you are working with GraphQL and React. And Relay also generates flow types from the schema, so you get handy types when you are using the GraphQL in your code. We are doing a lot of tests because we can use mocked API responses, and the Relay is pretty simple to switch, not to make the API call to the server, but use the mocked response. The cool thing is I don't have to just talk about what we are doing. You can see it by yourself. Go to our GitHub. The whole GraphQL server is developed there. It's open source. Take a look on the stuff we are doing. If you are willing, fix some issue. There is a lot of good first issue if you are willing to help. And learn from our code. The current situation with GraphQL and Kiwi.com is the location on the Kiwi.com homepage is powered by GraphQL. The hotels in our mobile application that are written in React Native are also fetching data over GraphQL. Customer support application is using that, and soon to be released new version of our FAQ is also going to be built on GraphQL. If you are willing to learn more about GraphQL, the howtographql.com web contains a wonderful tutorial. And that's basically it, until one more little thing. If you are willing to learn or try GraphQL in such a villa, please apply to our summer camp that will happen during July on a beautiful island, Hvar. And apply, and maybe you will be chosen to participate on this summer camp. And second thing, please, we have Kiwi.com booth upside. We have a lot of beer. Please help us finish the beer. Thank you very much.